Unqualified advice, not enough soul. If there is one thing that the pursuit of romance and the pursuit of an acting career have in common, it's rejection. It's inevitable that the way you handle rejection in one of those arenas will inform how you face it in the other. For me, it feels a little like the chicken or the egg. The romantic rejection I've experienced has undoubtedly affected how I approach auditions. And the professional rejections I've received from casting agents has influenced how I approach relationships. And I've been acting for so long and crushing on boys for so long that I don't know which came first. Let's start by recounting some of my most memorable professional rejections. There was the time I auditioned to play Joey's sister on Friends. It was season 8, and there were maybe 15 actresses in the waiting room, all recognizable people. And at the very end of my audition, one of the producers laughed audibly, a big ha, and I thought, okay, I nailed this. After I was done, some of the actresses were asked to stay, but I wasn't one of them. To the rest of us, the casting director just said thanks and sent us on our way. Everyone could see who was staying and who was going. As I walked out, filing past the row of women who still had a shot, the casting director poked her head out and said, "Anna, why don't you stay?" "Okay, great," I said and headed back to my seat. Then, 30 seconds later, there was her head again, peeking out the door. "Anna, you know what? It's fine. You can go." I had to walk out again, past all the other actresses. It was embarrassing for sure, but there are benefits to being forced to face those moments. Namely, you build up the resilience it takes to pursue a career in Hollywood. Those moments mess with your head and pit actors against each other, but they've made me stronger too. Of course, that rejection made it all the sweeter when I was cast to play the birth mother of Chandra and Monica's babies in the final season. I was in a Best Buy when my agent called and said I got an offer to be in 5 episodes. Like everyone else, I was a huge fan of the show, and I was thrilled but terrified walking onto the set. There was a moment that I was alone on stage, and I got to sit on the couch at Central Park and see the picture frame that surrounded the apartment peephole. And it was magical and surreal. It was Friends, and it was the last season, and it was not lost on me what a big deal that was. I basically had IBS the whole time. As we taped, I could feel the cast growing more and more sentimental, and I was in this unusual position of being a complete stranger, but also because my minor role was important to the characters' stories, a part of their ending journey. During one run-through, Jennifer Aniston suggested a group hug, and I was standing nearby, so I started to take a step forward, but then took a step back. I just didn't know where to go. I was like, do I belong here? And then Matthew Perry gestured for me to come in, so I awkwardly joined the embrace, which was incredibly bizarre. But the cast was so welcoming, especially Matthew and Courtney Cox. They were both impressively emotionally invested in the Monica Chandra baby storyline, which reinforced the idea for me that these were characters they'd fall in love with over time. I felt the weight of that. Long before I auditioned for Friends, I faced an even more noteworthy rejection after attempting to land a different TV role. I was auditioning for a network pilot, a beautiful drama that I was really eager to be a part of. I went to 4 auditions, and I knew that I was in the final rounds to play the big and emotionally powerful role of the pregnant neighbor who moves in with the main character and her son. It was pilot season in the early 2000s. I was still very much finding my way in LA. I had done a scary movie and taped a pilot about a talking dog. But those were the entirety of my Hollywood credits, so Landing this kind of meaty role felt like a big deal. I was getting close, and it was down to me and two other girls. But my agent called me the day after the audition to tell me I didn't get the role. Then he started to laugh. "Your feedback was that you don't have enough soul," he said. "Not enough soul? What the fuck do I do with that? How do I get more soul?" Usually, when you don't get a part, your agent will deliver the news but protect you from the really harsh criticism. They don't often reveal the notes, especially when a casting director says you're lacking talent or you aren't hot enough. In this case, I think my agent shared the feedback because it was so ridiculous. He didn't say it as if to imply I needed to actually get more soul. He was saying, "You're not gonna believe this." He was coming from a place of believing in me, and he acted as if this was the most ridiculous feedback he'd ever heard. But all I could think was, how do I interpret this rejection? How can I develop a soul that people will respond to? Professional rejection made me incredibly guarded when it comes to relationship rejection. The question of how to value myself if casting directors don't value me is a really hard one, and it's the one I bet plenty of other actresses struggle with too. I never wanted to reveal my hand in a romantic relationship until I know the guy was digging me. I don't know if that's a wise move or if it's totally fucked up. It definitely has a bit of an "I'll show you mine if you show me yours" edge to it. But when you constantly put yourself out there professionally, it's hard to do so emotionally too. And similarly, when you are rejected romantically, whether it's the end of a long relationship or after just a single date, you question yourself there too. If a person acknowledges they don't want to get to know you better or spend more time with you, you feel pretty shitty. The ego bruise can be profound, so how do you get over it? After Chuck Berg broke up with me at the beginning of college, I spent a long time wondering what I did wrong. Why does he want to move on from me? I wonder, legitimately baffled. My parents like me, why doesn't he? It wasn't until Dave, the on-again, off-again college boyfriend, came along that I was able to move on. Accepting defeat has always been an issue for me, and I think that speaks to my determination if we are being generous, or my pride if we are being honest. It's a fine line. In the past, when resisting defeat meant living in a state of disillusionment and trying to make a bad thing work, I did it. With men, I have stayed in relationships long past the time I should have bailed, but I never let the failure of one relationship deter me from the next. With the acting, I emotionally invested myself into what might seem like the silliest of projects. See frozen yogurt commercial, a Red Robin training video, and continued to audition even when I didn't have enough soul. Dave's arrival didn't suddenly erase the memory of Chad or the sting of the rejection, of course. And meeting Ben didn't erase Dave, and Chris didn't erase Ben. But I take comfort in the idea that once you accept that certain relationships will always haunt you, they actually make you a better person. Because now you've experienced the pain of loss and heartbreak, and at least in my case, humiliation. I like to think that those breakups made me a more compassionate and empathetic person, and in turn, a better actress. These days I have a wonderful family and a steady job, and I'm lucky not to have to deal with too much rejection on any given day. But I still find myself thinking about it a lot, mostly when I watch The Bachelor. I love The Bachelor so much, and I can't help but feel for those contestants. They are thrown into competitive frenzy where the fear of rejection probably forces them to feel an emotional attachment to a guy they don't know and probably don't even like that much. Can you imagine being on a date where you are legitimately, not just in theory, competing in the moment with other women? That must be so much harder than getting rejected from a one-on-one date. Of course, they are crying, it's 4 a.m., and they are drunk and hungry and wondering why they didn't make the cut. I totally get the feeling. It's not about love for this stranger, but the knowledge that I'm being compared to 20 other attractive women, and I guess there's nothing about me that stands out. In other words, they probably didn't have enough soul.